Hi, everybody, and welcome to the Monday edition of Moohead Radio. I'm your host, a big and furry bovine. Some people just can't stay away. So, coming up a little bit later in the show, Rox will sing Titanium.
Prepare yourselves accordingly.
But we have a show to get to first before we just totally lose the audience. So, today's show has taken a very odd turn. There will not be a Friday show because of a tooth extraction. I've made that eminently clear. And I hope to be able to do Sunday shows depending on how that tooth extraction goes. However, today's show took a major turn. I was all prepared just to talk about Freddie Kitchens' press conference, Baker Mayfield's accusations, and all of that happy horse shit. However, there is something far more troubling that is troubling and bubbling. Nowhere to be found on the Cleveland.com site, so I will share this with you. Headline on ESPN.com. The NFL probing Patriots video crew at Bengals-Browns game. Source says it was a feature shoot. Listen to this story. Cincinnati Bengals coach Zach Taylor, when he awoke from his coma, said Monday that the NFL is investigating an incident involving a Patriots video crew taping in the press box during Sunday's game against the Browns. The crew is credentialized by the Browns to shoot video for a team feature in the press box, and their PR person was aware, a league source told Adam Schefter. After the game, Taylor was asked by longtime radio analyst Dave Lapham of the Bengals radio network about rumors that the Patriots had a videographer in the Bengals press box area, working with an advanced scout that was taping video of the Bengals sideline. I'm aware there was an incident, Taylor said, but I know the league is investigating it. The incident in question involved a Patriot scout who was being filmed while working on a team feature called Do Your Job, the source says. An official for the Bengals who were playing at Cleveland on Sunday saw a member of the video crew wearing a Patriot shirt, alerted the league, which immediately confiscated the video. If you don't remember, in 2007, the Patriots were punished by the NFL for videotaping the New York Jets' defensive play calls on the sideline during a 2007 game at Giant Stadium won by New England. The Patriots were forced to forfeit their first-round pick in 2008, and coach Bill Belichick was fined $500,000. The Patriots were ordered to pay $250,000 for the scandal, which was dubbed Spygate. Now, all of this, you would say to yourself, well, what does it all mean? The last sentence puts it all together. The Patriots, losers 2 in a row, play at the Bengals on Sunday. Now, here's what I have to tell y'all. This is cheating. They are trying again when they know they can't win fairly because Brady is washed up and they're not even able to beat fair to Midland teams, and they're having trouble in close games because they're not putting enough points on the board. They're taping the defenses of the Cincinnati Bengals, a team that's 1-12. You know, it's like they said about Richard Nixon. You can have every poll saying you're winning over George McGovern in a landslide, but it doesn't make any difference. Cheaters cheat, liars lie. Here's...
Uh-oh.
Freeze frame.
Yep, you are frozen. You know what that means. It's time to run amok! It's time to run amok!
Yeah, nice try, run amok. I'm back.
Yes, you are.
Yes.
After a 5-second delay.
Yeah, I know. I look, I'm on Wi-Fi, and I can't say with any degree of certainty how perfect this connection will be. But hey, it's not going to cut out for long to prevent me from saying what I have to say is not very pleasant. We know that the Patriots are cheaters. We know that. But now we know that the Browns are complicit. The boys' club, Haslam is a known thief, as is Robert Kraft and Bill Belichick. And thieves work together. By credentializing a Patriots videographer crew to be in the Bengals press box should be the source of not only a major fine, but as far as I'm concerned, the complicity involved should force Jimmy Haslam out of the league once and for all. I'm sick of this shit. You want to find out what the problem is with the Cleveland Browns? You don't have to look very far, folks. This is the problem. The owner is a thief. It is he who is putting Freddie Kitchens and keeping Freddie Kitchens in the position that he's in. It is he who threatens Cleveland.com, I'm quite certain, from not printing this story. But it's going to break nationally anyway, and questions will be asked. And I'm just not going to sit here and wash over the whole thing. This is pathetic. Everybody is wondering, why did Baker Mayfield say what he was saying? Let me explain to you what an emotional quarterback, who may not be the smartest guy in the world, was probably saying. I don't think that he had any grudge against the medical staff. I know that Bitonio and Treader are going to come out in favor of the medical staff. The medical staff had nothing to do with any of this OBJ stuff. What Baker really is trying to say, and I'll say it for him because after all, he went to Oklahoma. Oops. Sorry, Rox.
That makes him awesome.
That does make him awesome. It makes him probably illiterate. But be that as it may, I will explain exactly what he was really getting at. By saying that OBJ was not ready to play and had been hindered this year by an injury that could have been taken care of in the preseason, this is not saying that the medical staff made this decision. The medical staff is no different than Freddie Kitchens or anyone else. They're governed over by the thief, Jimmy Haslam. If you don't do what Haslam says, he will find new medical advisors and you won't have a fucking job. All right? What Baker's really saying is, we had a chance for him to have the surgery 2 weeks before the season. He would have missed 2 games into the season, and at least he would have been healthy. Instead, the decision was made to do nothing and watch him dissipate as the year went on, and his productivity has gone down as the season has progressed, and he's hurting. Everybody agrees. Freddie Kitchens in his presser said as much. Everybody's acknowledging that the injury was there in the preseason. What should be questioned is the decision to do nothing about it, and then wonder why he's having the worst year of his career. And to wonder why OBJ doesn't want to stay in Cleveland. Because they ripped up his fucking body. Because Jimmy Haslam is a thief. He made a bad decision. And he throws his weight around. He's a meddler. Freddie is his guy. I can't tell you anything good about somebody who cheats his clients in a rebate scam. He should be in federal prison for doing it. He shouldn't be an owner in the NFL, or then again, maybe he should. Maybe that's exactly the kind of guy they're looking for. The thing that bothers me most about the story is that we keep getting these questions about the Browns being fractured in the locker room. Why do you think that is? The only thing that I can think of is because nobody likes the decisions that are being made. And the bottom line is that the team is now going one man against another. So Baker says something, and Treader and Bitonio will say, no, that was the wrong thing to do. And Freddie will stand up there and say, we don't appreciate him saying that stuff. Well, of course you don't. It's Jimmy Haslam who doesn't appreciate it. It was a shit-fuck decision. And it's a shit-fuck decision not to play Rashard Higgins. It's a shit-fuck decision to do half the things that this idiot owner does. And he's not the only idiot owner we know in the NFL. See no further than Mike Brown in Cincinnati, who hired Zach Taylor. It's, to me...
I guess he thought he was booking the band. I don't know.
Yeah, right. I mean, honestly, I'm at a loss at this point for this story to break and to credentialize the New England Patriots. What favors does this asshole have? What IOUs does he have to pay back that he got the Cleveland Browns franchise? Are you telling me that of all the people who could have bought this franchise, that's the guy you vetted? A thief? You wonder why we never get anywhere, why the calls go against us and all of that? Because all it was about was Jimmy Haslam getting the team. The NFL has just given up on Cleveland a long time ago. Everybody knows it. And the Bengals are probably in a lower spot than the Browns based on the way I saw the officiating go in yesterday's game. So the whole thing is, and I wanted to share another story while I'm talking about this, and it's really ridiculous. Headline: Tom Brady focused more on Patriots miscues rather than the referees. They're pulling the referee card in New England. Help us, Roger! Help! Can you believe this? Help! I need somebody! Help! Come on. Every call that could have possibly gone their way historically has gone their way. Tom Brady's not ready to leave yet. He's 42 and he's old. And I hope to God that he gets injured so that we'll really see how bad Thief Belichick is as a coach. And I will be proven right on this. They can't win without Tom Brady. And Tom Brady ain't Tom Brady anymore. There ain't no miracles left except maybe the miracles that the NFL will provide them with. This team couldn't beat the Chiefs, and the Chiefs haven't been very good lately. And to sit there and say, well, they blew a few calls against us. Well, you can blow this, Tom. God almighty. I'm so sick and tired of the fucking New England Patriots. And now I'm sick and tired of the Cleveland Browns. And I'm sick and tired of Jimmy Haslam. I'm sick of the league complicity in all of this. It sucks.
Rick says, hey, Moo, maybe Kraft's checks aren't clearing like they used to.
Yeah. Well, what I can tell you is this. It's all about marketing. It's always been about marketing. The Lakers are 21-3, and it's LeBron and Unibrow, okay? It isn't Kyle Kuzma. It's not Rajon Rondo. It's not those people. It's all marketing. It's all about the NBA, the big three. Well, I'll tell you what it's about now in the NFL. It's all about the Ravens. It's all about Lamar Jackson. That's what it's about. We got to get away from the Breezes and the Bradys and the things of the past, the Eli Mannings and all of that. That's all the rearview mirror, man. We got to focus on something new. And it can't be Baker Mayfield and the Cleveland Browns. It cannot be. That is a league mandate. They just keep giving the team to people who have no idea how to run them. How did Randy Lerner inherit an NFL team? Somebody explain that to me, please. How does that happen? When Al Lerner died, they should have gone to the estate and said, okay, we get the autistic guy the fuck out into England, let him have his scones and get his little soccer team. But Jesus Christ, he can't own an NFL franchise, but you know what did it matter? It's Cleveland. Anyone can own in Cleveland. Art Modell could basically pawn his 1967 Pontiac and get the money to end up in Cleveland. Anybody. Jimmy Haslam, truck stop magnate. Please. It's insulting. The whole thing is just fucking insulting. Anything you guys on the panel, start with you, Brian. What do you have to say about this breaking news?
Well, is it really that shocking? I mean, this is like another woman accusing fucking Bill Clinton of rape in the fucking 1980s. Is it really that surprising?
With Clinton, it was amazing that he could get it up that many times. As far as no, it's not surprising with the NFL. No, because it's a dishonest thing. I mean, Jake, does this hurt you to the core?
If I didn't feel like this forever, this was happening, it would. But at this point, I think the biggest martyrs and rightful martyrs are probably the Jets, who were just shoved to the B side of New York after Namath retired. And they've been a laughingstock. They haven't had any advantage of the referees. Their best run was with, dare I say, Mark Sanchez. And they're always the B team. They don't get anything for them. And it's a joke because they're not as brandable because they're right outside in Jersey.
Yeah, I mean, and
they don't even have their own stadium. They have to share everything with the Giants. They will always be the Giants' little brother. And Namath didn't retire a Jet. He was actually cut by the Jets. So
yeah. But I mean, after he was gone, it just didn't. It was just went to the Giants.
No, and then they drafted Richard Todd in 1978.
You know what I want to do? I want to do something that is a totally pointless and futile gesture. I want to chase the rest of the fans out of Cleveland Browns Stadium, and I have an idea. I don't want the national anthem, okay, before the game. I don't want all this faux patriotism. What I want is for Roxanne to sing Titanium before every game.
Well, then you get rid of everybody.
So, with that in mind,
the mice, the rats, the cats.
Here comes Rox. This is Cleveland Browns Stadium. This coming, well, I guess they're not going to be in Cleveland Browns Stadium, but hey, when they play the Ravens at home, go ahead, Rox, give it to them.
Oh, how dare you. I'm criticized, but all your bullets ricochet. You shoot me down, but I get up. You shoot me down, but I won't fall. I am titanium. You shoot me down, but I won't fall. I am titanium.
Good grief, man, make it stop.
And the home of the
Oh, come on, I can sing.
Then we'll have Jamie Gillen get out his bagpipes. Oh, I think I can top half.
Oh, how dare you.
I can't do a Jamie Gillen impression. That was pretty good, Brian. I can't do that. The only thing I can think of is get in my belly. That's all I can think of, and that's not good enough.
I'm bigger than you. I'm higher on the food chain. Get in my belly.
There you go. And Rick is right here with us here, you know? He's saying absolutely, man. We could start a team. All right, so now that that's gone,
So what exactly are the colors? Well, it's kind of a greenish, weird silver.
hey, Gemini loves your voice, Rox.
Epic.
Amsterdam doesn't.
That's fat bastard, Greg.
Gemini has good taste.
Every cat in my street ran off. Oh.
Yeah,
For the follow-up, we
Padre.
should do Donna Summer's "I Feel Love."
Who's doing that one?
No, I'm not doing that one. Padre, you have a kilt. Well, Jimmy Haslam's kilt the Browns. Yeah. And of course, Gemini is in love with Rox. And God, if D-Bag were here, boy, he would just be.
Hey, D-Bag.
No, he's not here. You're looking for any friendly harbor that you can find, Rox.
I am.
I know.
I need to have some people on my side here.
Oh, this is Mr. Fergus.
What happens at 1:55 a.m. on a Friday night? Any port in a storm.
Hey, and there Gemini tells the truth. Hey, titanium's better than Haslam's horse shit. Thank you so much.
Well, that's something.
It's something. Yeah, Jovan, keep the faith. I got no faith. I'm totally without faith. Give me Ernest Angley. I need faith. Give me George Michael. I gotta have faith, the faith. Yeah. Faith that a guy's going to be in the restroom and it's not a cop. Thank you, George. As for Freddie Kitchens, he was not real complimentary of what Baker Mayfield said, which is really somehow doesn't surprise me. Basically, he said, it's been addressed and Mayfield understands how to handle things like that,
Baker apologized to the media. Apologized after being spoken to.
Yeah, I mean, we don't want him addressing other players' injuries in that manner, especially, said Kitchens. Odell and our training staff have done a tremendous job of getting Odell to the game each week and every week. And if he's like a horse and he breaks his leg, we'll just exterminate him. Yeah. I'm sure. Beckham.
Well, they already have the little blue tent. They can just wheel it out to the fucking field.
Odell has done a tremendous job of being a pawn. Yeah, the whole thing is just pathetic.
For those who don't know, that's what they do when they decide to destroy a racehorse. They bring out a fucking... they cover him in a tent. And then they just...
Like the NFL. Isn't that what the NFL does?
Well,
for concussion protocol?
That's what I'm saying. They already got the little blue tent. They can just fucking wheel it onto the field, shoot him up, and leave his carcass on the for the rest of the game.
God damn.
And
we'll
I also
field
noticed
service
how,
handle it.
Go ahead, Jake.
I also noticed how in football in general, if you're a star player, mostly quarterback, they won't take you out for a concussion. But I watched in the Oklahoma game, they took out Baylor's 2 quarterbacks. And if Jalen Hurts had that same hit, he would have played the whole game, no doubt. Goes back to branding.
Yeah, I mean, and now we find out, of course, that OBJ hasn't even been running until Friday every week. This is what we got.
Well, I don't know about the other kid, but I know in Brewer's case, it was the officiating crew that stopped the game and made Brewer get off the field. I guess the one eye was like a saucer. And the coaching staff was perfectly okay with letting him play.
No. I mean, what is Freddie Kitchens going to say? He's going to say the Haslam line. I mean, if you want to be a head coach so badly that you will allow your star player, the guy that your GM spent all that on, effort, money, time, everything, if you are okay ethically with putting him on the field week after week after week, watching what's happening to him, you have no conscience whatsoever. He's perfect for Haslam. They're great for one another. I mean, I'll tell a little brief story. I'll make sure that it's very brief. The first radio station I owned was an AM/FM combination in Danville, Illinois. And it was a starter for me. I was a young man. And it was a town of 30,000 people, and Danville, not a booming metropolis by any stretch of the imagination. They weren't very happy with me, basically a Midwestern but Eastern college educated Jew. In Danville, the 80% plus of the population had lived there for over 20 years. And I was a new guy in town, and it just wasn't going over all that well. One of the guys who had a problem with me owned an AM station, WITY 980 AM in Danville, and I'm naming names because people should know what happens in situations where there is a total lack of ethics. His name was Alan Thoman. Alan Thoman was the president of the Chamber of Commerce of Danville, Vermilion County in Illinois, just on the Indiana border. He hated me, and I always thought there was something awful weird about him. One day, my news director called me up at 5 o'clock in the morning, and that didn't normally happen. And he goes, "Mark, I got to talk to you." And I go, "What's so important that you have to talk to me at 5 o'clock?" He goes, "I'm out on location. The police have just taken Al Thoman out of his home in handcuffs." I said, "Okay. And what do you want me to do about it?" He goes, "Well, I talked to the police, and I've known them, and they know me, and they told me what this was all about." And I said, "What was it all about?" And he said, "Child pornography." And I said, "Oh wow." I said, this is a keg of dynamite, that we're sitting on. And he goes, "What do you want me to do about this?" And I said, "What is the story? I mean, is this an accusation?" And he said, "No, they're removing equipment from his house." I said, "Equipment? Like a VCR? What? What equipment?" And he said, "Recording equipment, cameras." I said, "You're telling me he was producing child pornography?" And he goes, "Yes, with retarded children."
Oh my God.
I said, "That is the accusation." He goes, "It's right there on camera. He and his girlfriend cavorting with naked, retarded children." I said, "Run with the story. Go for it." Well, it wasn't but till the next day when that story broke that I had 3 members of the business community of Danville, Illinois, come to my building and tell me to kill the story. And I said, "I ain't got to kill the story. What are you, crazy?" And they said, "Get it off the air." And I said, "Why are you covering up for him?" I said, "What if it was your children?" And it was then that I realized
It was.
there was obviously something awfully wrong about Danville, Illinois. Bob Jones, the mayor of the town, was caught in adult theaters with other men. Is that a crime? I don't know. Doesn't mean that he's a pedophile. It meant that he was closeted gay. But what was weird about the story was that he was busted on so many levels. They had traced back that he had purchased child pornography from across the border from Indiana. Did you even know child pornography was being distributed in Indiana? I figured it must have been at least from the 1950s because everything's behind the times in Indiana. Yep. He brought it across state lines, so they had him nailed. They had the film. They had everything. You want to know what happened to Al Thoman?
What?
He got sent to Mattoon, Illinois, the home of Lender's Bagels, if you see them in your area grocery store. He had to leave Danville, never spent a minute in jail because he narked out the people who had sold him the pornography, and they were going after a bigger figure.
Wow, that's fucked up.
And the Chamber of Commerce of Danville, the following week after the whole thing went down, never heard of Al Thoman. I don't know him. What I did is I put the station up for sale and got the fuck out of there. That's how I ended up in Flint, Michigan, folks. To get the fuck out of a place that was so wrong, I could not, in good conscience, earn a living there. It's crazy.
You clap your hands 2 times and actually turn it into a halfway decent.
The whole thing.
Less morally ambiguous place.
Yeah, I mean, I've never, and I mean, I've lived places before where there were things that, I was approached in Jackson, Tennessee to stop playing Janet Jackson music because it was spook music. Believe me, I've had things like it, but something like this in a figure in town, and for a guy not to spend a minute in jail having done those things, it was so distasteful. And that he was being protected by the business community. It made me sick to my stomach. So all of these types of things where there's this complicit nature, it really bothers me from an ethical perspective that you ask other people to help you cheat. You ask other people to help you get off the hook, for child pornography recording in your home. How people can even want to be part of this club, and then on top of it, you're trying to force the hand of players to play with cancer, with ripped up muscles in their bodies. I'm running out of opportunities and will to even do this. I can't even ethically be a fan of professional football when you hear about this kind of shit. And it keeps coming up over and over and over again, And if they find out that the Astros were doing the same thing, which I think is pretty clear that they were, how are you going to feel about baseball? How are you going to feel about any of these sports? How are you going to feel? Is it entertaining? When does it stop being entertainment? Even the corruptest of the corrupt, the WWE, Vince fucking McMahon, who allowed his guys to get all bulked up on steroids and resulting in people like Chris Benoit and China fucking killing themselves, and he just rolls merrily along. Even his stuff is scripted. Occasionally, a guy will fall to his death at a show, but it's scripted.
Yep.
And he acknowledges that it's sports entertainment, which means it's fake. At what point do we realize that what we're watching is rigged, it's fake, the whole thing is ridiculous?
And the go on your Vince point, he also won't put certain guys that he bulked up on steroids and gave painkillers a chance for the Hall of Fame because he didn't like their outside the ring habits. So he wants to cover it up and not have to show that they were killed because of him.
Yeah, I mean, it's hard, and I stopped watching wrestling. I mean, because, and I'll tell you why. You remember when Jerry the King Lawler had a heart attack at ringside during a broadcast?
WrestleMania.
And everybody thought it was. Yeah, everybody thought it was a put on. Everyone thought it was fake because they're watching something that's fake. Guy was ready to cack at ringside. Michael Cole was shook. He was shook bad. But people still thought it was fake. I've watched wrestling matches where people broke their necks and the match continued to try to cover the fact that they had broken their neck. When people get hurt in wrestling, which is probably all the time, they fake injuries, but the real injuries we never see because we don't really get to see many of these guys when they get older because they're crippled. Look at Hulk Hogan. Hulk Hogan was told to stop wrestling because his back was just completely destroyed. I mean, they said that if he wrestled one more time, that he was putting himself at advanced threat for paralysis. That's why you stop seeing Hulk Hogan in the ring.
He's got a knee replacement and a hip replacement and fused discs in his back and all kinds of fucking shit. And at one point when he made an appearance, he had a curvature in his spine. His spine actually looked like an S. And he had to have surgery. That was when he was doing the Hogan Knows Best show. They actually went along and cut the little wings off the vertebrae so that he was able to actually walk around.
Yeah, I mean, watching what has, and there's so many. I mean, there's so many wrestlers who I remember, Jake the Snake Roberts, and a bunch of the old time guys.
Yep.
That didn't live long enough. Mr. Perfect.
The Ultimate Warrior guy blew out his heart from all the steroids that they did.
That's right.
Well, look at how they treated Andre the Giant, flying him around in tiny planes around the country year round. I mean, he had an issue that wasn't going to be curable, but his life was heavily shortened by the fact that he was on those tiny planes. He could not sit in the same spot for more than 10 hours before waking up the next in a new city. They tortured him, and he never said a word about it. Never said a thing. So,
yeah. I mean, it's a scary, scary thing. And Jake the Snake Roberts had Chris Benoit. Don't even go there. Jake the Snake is still alive. I apologize. His alcoholism and drug use was rampant until he did finally clean up in the end. But that was through no help of Vince McMahon and the WWE. Eddie Guerrero. We remember the names. It's too numerous to mention. But we're going to be saying the same thing about football players, Nobody wants to talk about the bottom 8 guys in the roster who never make it but end up dying when they're 42 years old. We don't read about, there was the one story about the Browns, Leroy Horde, and about how he was totally losing his memory, that he was suffering from CTE. But who cares about Leroy Horde? We only want the names of the big people, and the people they can parade in front of the cameras. It's a problem. And it's hard for me. It's hard for me to do this. It really is. Looking at the Browns game as an afterthought, I mean, it wasn't much of a game, was it? It was two teams that really, you would swear we're both about as bad as one another. And that can't be the case because the Bengals are really a 1-12 football team. But the Cleveland Browns shouldn't be 6-7. The Browns have more than that. And if they were well coached and if there was cohesiveness in the locker room, they would be better than that. I mean, it's really, they're underachieving so badly that it's frustrating to watch. And they should, I mean, big deal they beat Cincinnati. And they keep saying, well, we've won, 1-0 every week. We've won 4 of our last 5. Against who? The only really good win this season was against the Ravens. That was it. So there hasn't been anything for me to get excited about. And so that's all I'm going to say about the Browns at this point. It nauseates me. Jimmy Haslam nauseates me. The organization nauseates me. And fuck them. Whatever happens to them, happens to them. I want to move on to something else. How does Ohio State drop to number 2 to fall behind LSU? Any ideas on this panel?
Yeah, they shit the bed in the first half against Wisconsin.
Oh, man, are you telling me that's it? I mean, fucking LSU gave up how many? 40 fucking points twice this year? That can't be it. Now, can it?
But they stomped the shit out of Alabama, and they stomped the shit out of Georgia.
Right.
And they only care about what happens in the SEC.
It's just, I don't know. I just reading this thing, and it was like, man, that
But I don't think anybody could tell me that Oklahoma is substantially better than Oregon.
When you get down there, it really becomes a judgment call. But I mean,
8 minutes, yeah, 8 teams, and you're going to tell me Oklahoma's the 4th best team?
Yeah, it doesn't.
It doesn't really translate to an 18 playoff yet.
Yeah, I looked at all of the statistical analysis, and Ohio State was number 1, and everything from the amount that they beat teams by. They had the hardest schedule. I mean, there could be no doubt that Ohio State should have been the number 1 seed. There is no doubt in my mind. And I'm not taking anything away from LSU, who's a clear number 2. And maybe we'll get to find out. Maybe we'll find out when the 2 teams play one another. But I do know this.
I still think it's funny that Joe Burrow was an Ohio State Buckeye, and transfers away and then dominates the SEC, but wasn't good enough to start for the Buckeyes.
Different systems, though. Urban would never have ran a pro style passing offense like that. So I understand why Ohio State wasn't a good fit for him. You should have known at high school that not to go to Ohio State. Should have gone to Iowa, where we had the chance to play right away.
Well, I mean, and, I'm not a big college football fan. I watched Ohio State play this year, and they just buried people. And yeah, the first half against Wisconsin was ugly. I mean,
All we know is if you're a betting person, that line where OSU's the underdog looks pretty good.
I will say this about Ryan Day. Under Urban Meyer, there's been a game every season where they just totally shit the bed. They come out totally flat, and they get blown off the field. Last year, it was Purdue. And the year before that, who was it? I think it was like Wisconsin or somebody beat them. And this year, Ryan Day has had the team up for every fucking game. Every game they've come out of the chute and they've actually looked like a team that belongs on the fucking field. So, coaching matters.
Well, I just I don't understand when in every single statistical category,
Well, just think though, if the SEC doesn't get their way, they really drive college football in audience. If you look at the demographic and area of who watches college football, it's 60% in the South. So they're not going to anger the SEC anytime soon. That's the target area for them.
Yeah, it's completely arbitrary.
Mm-hmm.
You've got 12 people in a little room deciding the fate of 4 teams.
Well, it showed when you have Georgia in there. Oh, if Georgia's a 2-loss team, can they overtake Oklahoma after the game if they play close? Like, really? You going to debate that? A 1-loss conference champion will knock it in over Georgia?
Yeah, I mean, I wish I were more knowledgeable about this. But I'm trying. Okay, let's look at this for what it is. Does anybody think Texas is any good?
They were probably supposed to be.
I think they were. They won like 8 games, I think.
Yeah, but I'm saying, does beating Texas 45-38 constitute anything if you're LSU? The number 1 seed?
I think Cincinnati's better than Texas this year. I'll say that.
I mean, is giving up 38 points to Vanderbilt? They scored 66. But how does that work? How about beating Florida 42-28? Or beating Auburn 23-20? That's a close game. And Auburn was ranked number 9, and Wisconsin was ranked number 8. You know? Getting by Alabama and giving up 41 points to their second-string quarterback? You think that's good? Do you think giving up 37 points to Ole Miss is good? Do you know what would happen if Ohio State played this defense? They would destroy LSU. Just destroy them.
Well, hopefully they have a chance.
I will say Tua played against LSU. They did have their starter against Alabama, or against LSU. So whatever his name is, Byron Jones did not play in the LSU Bama game. They did win on the road, but yeah.
I mean, I'll be the first one to say LSU, just like Ohio State, ran up the score against people like Georgia Southern and Northwestern State. You know, I mean, yeah. Arkansas, who hasn't been anything.
When they played, when they rolled over Miami of Ohio went on to
win the MAC
conference championship.
Yeah, but they were only 7-5. So I mean, I watched. You know, that's one of my alma maters, and Miami is not a very good football team any more than Cincinnati, who went ahead and lost. Memphis, is that who they lost to?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, and they're not a good football team either, not by the standards of national football. You know, you beat up Texas A&M 50-7. I mean, you're running up a score, and then whoop it on Georgia. That was an impressive win. All right. So they had that big win, but I mean, Ohio State whipped holy hell on Michigan. I mean, you know, Ohio State played so many good teams and made them look like bad teams. That's what it boils down to.
Well, whoever plays in the championship, if it's LSU, it's a home game because LSU is playing right in the Mercedes Superdome. So that'll be fun.
And, you know, one more log to throw on the fire here, folks. The end of Adam Vinatieri, finally, a season-ending knee surgery. It's the end of his career, really. 24 seasons in the NFL, 46 years of age, and he was really having a bad year. He routinely said his knee wasn't a problem, but it was something caused him to go from being one of the most reliable kickers to being one of the weakest links on the team this year. How long do they know about his knee? Huh? I just wonder about this shit now. I mean, yeah, he's old, but he wasn't this bad.
Well, he also wanted to play because he had an issue last year with his knee, and they tried to bring somebody in to replace him. And he had like a dislocated kneecap. He kicked anyways because he did not want to get replaced. So I think he wanted to play through it. But
I believe he did. He's 46. He's got nothing left. This is last year.
The Colts could use those. Yeah, the Colts could really use those last 3 kicks that he missed this year that cost him 3 games. They could really use those games right now.
Yep.
So, I mean, he did not help the team. That should be a 9-win team right now if he wasn't on there.
Yeah, I mean, I'm the first to admit they stayed with this for far too long. But I believe that there's something wrong with the guy's knee from the get-go, and they had to know that because they have medical people, and they decided that they were going to stick with the guy, maybe because of loyalty or whatever the case may be. But it surely wasn't in the best interest of the team, now was it? I don't think that the OBJ thing is in the best interest of the team either. I think decisions have to be made, but they got to be made on the basis of what's best for the team, what helps an organization win. That's what they're out there to do. Adam Vinatieri didn't give them a good chance to win. And, what's funny, if you're a Dallas Cowboy fan, and there's not a whole hell of a lot that's funny, you release your kicker, Brett Maher, to sign the amazing Kai Forbath, and that's going to somehow appease the anger of Cowboys fans who are watching a team but can't win a fucking game in December, and never have been able to win a fucking game in December, and it's been like this forever. Granted, Maher led the league with 10 missed field goal attempts this season. You got somebody, the axe is going to fall, and 9 times out of 10, you could always bank that it falls on, the kickers. Kickers get moved around, and it's amazing. They cost teams games. It is such a vital and important position. You don't believe me? Look at Vinatieri. Look at all the big kicks that he made. And the reason that they kept Maher is because he could kick 62, 63-yard field goals. He just couldn't consistently kick 43-yard field goals. That's a management decision. Why would you do you really think that a guy who can't shoot a basketball is going to suddenly learn? Do you really think that Larry Nance Jr. is just going to click from behind the arc and hit threes? Do you really think that? Do you think that Tristan Thompson is going to develop a spot-up, fadeaway, 16-foot jump shot? I mean, come on. Guy who's not accurate is a guy who's not accurate. We went through this already in Cleveland. I forget the cocksucker's name. I forget his name. We've had so many bad kickers.
The Chicago one was Parkey, right?
Parkey, right. I mean, these guys keep getting invited back for a second and third opportunities. If you're kicking 70% of your field goals, you're missing 30% of them. And folks, those are the ones where they trot you out on the field with the game on the line and you lose. I never understood why, shame on them for drafting a kicker. I think of Ray Guy, and I say to myself, yeah, they should never have drafted Ray Guy. What a mistake the Raiders made. I sit and watch kickers win games consistently year after year after year. It's a hugely important position. They may trot out onto the field only once or twice in a goddamn game to try field goals. But with the pressure on, I don't understand. But yeah.
Pats brought Nick Folk back, right? Or is it somebody else?
I'm sorry?
Did the Pats just sign Nick Folk, I think? Re-signed him?
I don't know.
I think they just cut their kicker, I think, and re-signed Nick Folk the second time this year. Because he missed a couple extra points.
I'm just thrilled that Austin Seibert has become a pretty reliable kicker. We haven't had that in Cleveland since Phil Dawson. And look how long Phil Dawson lasted in the league. I mean, accuracy is what it's all about. It's like good free throw shooter, bad free throw shooter. Have you ever seen anybody who was an under 50% NBA free throw shooter become a good free throw shooter? Fuck no. If you can't make kicks, you know.
The only one that I can think of is Shaq when he would have one of these. He'd hit like 9 in a row streaks, but overall can't throw the beach ball into the ocean.
Well, Wilt Chamberlain. Do you know that Wilt Chamberlain had the record for made free throws in a basketball game? Hey, a blind pig will find an acorn once in a while. And Wilt Chamberlain couldn't shoot free throws.
They make those excuses the center's hands are too big. Well,
man.
Yao Ming was like 87% from the line. So it's not that. Yao Ming was a very good free throw shooter and good shooter overall. So I don't think it's just the fact that they don't have the hand size to grip a basketball properly.
Yeah,
but Yao Ming, okay, under the communist system, he was like, they would treat him like Mark Price would treat himself, where he would have to hit so many in a row before they'd fucking let him do anything.
So they worked at it. So that kind of helps when you practice.
I'm sorry, Bronk. How long have you been waiting?
12 minutes.
Oh, I'm sorry, man. I am
All
so sorry.
hail the BCOD, and he's on mute.
Oh, he's muted? Wait, let me unmute him.
There I go. There I am.
Okay. I'm sorry, Bronk. I was looking through articles. My bad.
I just have one or two comments to make about the Ohio State LSU playoff situation. One thing I would say is that Ohio State, as you all know, is 13-0, and 9 of those opponents are bowl eligible if you count Wisconsin twice. So the only teams that they played that did not end up in a bowl game this year are Nebraska, Northwestern, Maryland, and Rutgers. I don't think any of the other 3 teams in the college football playoff have played that many bowl-eligible teams. Now, mind you, you did mention it was Florida Atlantic and Miami of Ohio and Indiana, but they all were good enough to make it into a bowl game, whether it's some shitty bowl in Detroit or some shitty bowl out where Brian lives. They all still made it into a bowl game. Anyway, the big news that's out is the Heisman finalists have been
I just got it.
And it's Joe Burrow, Justin Fields, Chase Young, and Jalen Hurts. Now, guess who is the odd man out in this quintet or quartet of 4 people? The odd man out is obviously Chase Young, not because he's a defensive player, but because he is the only player to have stayed at the original university that they were at for the entire length of their college career. So 3 out of the 4 Heisman candidates are all transfers from away from their original school. Now, if that doesn't say the fucked up state of college football, I don't know what is. You know?
Who's the favorite here?
Well, they listed Joe Burrow's name first in the nominations, just as I read it out. So I would pretty much guarantee Joe Burrow, because the other reason why I would guarantee it's Joe Burrow, because he's the pretty white guy. So I'm thinking it's going to be Joe Burrow winning the Heisman. So,
well, he's got 48 touchdowns. I mean, come on, man.
Yeah. I mean, you guys had a monster year. I'm not
like
here.
His stats are. He's got fucking 2 touchdowns and 19 interceptions, but because he's white, we're gonna hand him the trophy.
Yes, I think Burrow deserves it because, as Moose said, LSU's defense could have let them down if Burrow didn't throw 7 touchdowns.
I think Burrow's a great quarterback. It would be a fair choice if he was the Heisman.
I wanted to ask you, before we get out of here, do you think J.K. Dobbins is going to be an effective running back in the NFL?
Yes.
You think he's going to be a force?
Yes.
Well, I'm not. Why am I not convinced? What am I missing here?
He has a lot of Zeke in him where he could go a little bit wild, I think, and let himself go with this stocky build, but I think if he stays disciplined and doesn't gain weight and kind of stays cut, I think he'll be a very good back and he can catch the ball.
You know who he reminds me of? And I was sick of hearing, well, what was the idiot on Fox saying Joe Klatt that he was like Emmett Smith or Gus Johnson or whatever? He reminds me of Trent fucking Richardson when he was in college.
JK?
And we all know what sort of he was ordinary, wasn't he, Moo? Was he extraordinary or ordinary? He was ordinary. So I don't know. I wouldn't draft Dobbins, in the first 12.
Oh, I wouldn't draft any running back in the first round.
Well,
but yeah, I get what you're saying.
I mean, do you really think that JK
second round?
Yeah, could
JK in the fucking second round? So
That's true.
Do you think that he is as good as Nick Chubb?
No,
I'm just saying that we got a quality running back in the second round. You don't have to go out and draft somebody.
Oh, I agree.
In the top 10 pick. If he goes in the second or third round, it's not going to really matter. If you put him on, the Ravens, if he were to replace Mark Ingram, he would be very goddamn good.
I'm agreeing with Moo. I don't know. He could be.
We were lucky with Chubb because he tore his ACL in college, and we took a big chance on him that he'd stay healthy.
That's right.
And he has so far. So
nobody saw. I mean, I remember whether it was Darius Geis that they were pimping as the big time running back. Nick Chubb was not on the radar as far as having what we're seeing. I mean...
Well, he wasn't the touted running back coming out of Georgia. I can't think of the guy's name who ran with him, but he sounded like...
Well, first it was Gurley. Gurley
no,
first,
the one
and then it was
Gurley.
Sony Michel.
Sony
Michel.
Yeah.
And Sony Michel was drafted by the New England ahead of him.
That's right.
At the end of the first round.
So people coming out thought Sony Michel was better than Nick Chubb. Obviously, Nick Chubb is God. Nick Chubb is Jim fucking Brown, the second coming.
I mean, the guy really has been way, way better than anyone would have thought. And right from the get-go, he was that good. I want to answer Kawaki's question because I did talk about this and I told you what to expect. But even I didn't realize that Anthony Joshua was so bad that he could not knock out a fat bum who hadn't even trained for a fight. I told you when the guy came in at 283 pounds that this thing was already determined. Anthony Joshua is not going to be a heavyweight champion of the world. Anthony Joshua is a bum. He's just another guy, but he is the name in England. And so it means something. Yeah. Gronk is there.
He is God. I mean, everyone, anyone who follows sports knows about Anthony Joshua in England. He is God. That's because he's like attractive looking guy, well spoken, and looks like a proper athlete.
And he got knocked stiff by a fat guy who really doesn't have that good a punch. And the fact is, his chin is totally suspect. Exactly. And he would not be able to outbox a man. And I'm going to take another guy who I don't think Deontay Wilder is anything but a one-hit wonder as far as he's got a right hand, I don't see Deontay Wilder setting up and throwing the left hook or doing wicked combinations, going to the body to the head. I see him throwing isolated right hands and knocking people senseless. He's got, good power. But do you really think that Anthony Joshua could walk into the ring with another 6'5", 6'6" heavyweight where he didn't have that kind of a reach advantage that he had over a fat, pudgy Ruiz? He just stayed in the safety zone, man. He just stayed away from him and just hit him with jabs, right hand, and just puffed him up.
Hey, but he been hit a couple times. So Joshua got hit by Ruiz on several occasions, and I thought, if Ruiz gets one more punch in him, that old one more punch theory, he could have gotten fallen over again. So Joshua must have snapped Ruiz's head back on jabs.
Yeah, well, he was a target. I mean, and at 283 pounds, how did he even last the distance? The thing that you have to ask yourself.
He was so fat they couldn't knock him over.
Well, I mean, it means that Joshua was fighting a safety first fight, and he made sure that his chin wasn't exposed. But his chin will be exposed against any big heavyweight, and he's going to drop the second he gets hit. I've seen it a gazillion of times. Guys who get hit and go down with one shot like that. I mean, I watched Klitschko, and believe me, Klitschko held the championship through German mafia connections for God knows how fucking long.
20 years, I think.
But when that guy got hit by second-rate fighters, I mean, you know, boom, down he go. Yeah, Jake.
Well, I know your area would love to see it, but if the UK is looking forward to a Fury versus Joshua matchup, it will never happen, I don't think, because the DAZN coordinator said, we would love to have the matchup, but we don't want pay-per-view. It's going to be on DAZN. So that's not going to happen. They'll never unify the belt and find out who it is.
Tyson Fury's a complete asshole. I have no time for him.
Who?
Tyson Fury's a complete asshole. I have no time for him.
It will tell you how little skill is left in the sport.
Exactly.
If that guy who just by moving around and being awkward can beat people and outpoint them, it just tells you how little skill there is. I mean, Tyson Fury is, first of all, he's mentally ill. Second of all, totally erratic. You don't know what's going to show up in the ring. He doesn't have a big punch. I'll give him this. He took a wicked shot from Wilder and got up. Yeah. So he's crazy enough to have the heart, but he doesn't have the skill set. But you know what he is? He is like guys who I've seen who were tough guys, and he'll be scrambled. His brains will be scrambled.
Like that guy that Larry Holmes fought that jumped him after the fight.
No, Berbick? Well, Berbick was awkward, but, I'm talking about people. I mean, God, if I could pull a name out that Tyson Fury reminds me of.
Hopkins? Bernard Hopkins?
Well, Bernard Hopkins is a great fighter. Tyson Fury
but how he ended up after,
No, well,
1 year retirement?
They all stick around. They all stick around too long. Tyson Fury, if I had to say who he reminds me of, who would be a big guy who could take a pounding?
Well, Henry Cooper. But,
there was a guy who fought out of Minnesota. Tony would remember him.
Oh.
He was a heavyweight, and I forget, and he would fight people tough just because you could hit him and he wouldn't go away, And he would lose, but he'd give everybody a real good fight. That's what Tyson Fury is to me. He's
like Jerry Cooney.
Jerry Cooney had no chin, and you saw that. But there are people who it's usually the guys who have good chins that they keep coming at you. Frank the Animal Fletcher. There was a guy who was a middleweight. Look up Frank the Animal Fletcher. He didn't have any power, but he could take whatever you gave him and keep coming at you. And he outpointed people just from sheer will until he got to the upper echelons, and then he got hurt. But there's lots of fighters who fit that definition. Unfortunately, Tyson Fury is just another guy. They're all just another guy right now. I'd like to tell you that there was one guy who was like, wow, heavyweight, who's just, remarkable. But you know how bad it is when they put when they put the Deontay Wilder in. Who is the bum they put him in with in this last fight?
Oh, yeah, the guy that was probably 20 years older than his listed age.
Yeah, I'm just sitting there.
That dude was 42, by the way. They're like, that dude's like 44 years old or something. They're like, no, he's probably in his 50s right now.
Well, he fought amateur, and he had amateur decorations, and I knew that guy couldn't fight. I watched him fight a couple of fights, and he, again, a guy who has a glass jaw.
Scott Ledoux.
Scott Ledoux. Yeah. Another one, Randall Tex Cobb.
Granted, Texas.
There's another one. You can hit him, and he just keeps coming at you and keeps coming at you. I mean, you know.
Just called up his record. He had 50 fights, 13 losses.
Yep.
33 wins, 22 by knockout, 4 draws. Imagine having 13 losses.
But look who he drew against. If you look at his draws, you take a look at who he fought.
Bill Sharkey, Leon Spinks were the draws.
Look, I mean, the guy, I mean, Scott Ledoux, who knew, right? But nobody's going to remember him as being anything but a real tough palooka. And that's what Tyson Fury is. He's a tough palooka, and he's crazy enough to keep getting in the ring. All right. Hey, I'm done. We went over today, but it was fun.
We got a brief BCOD update. It's killed Paul Volcker the other day, but I don't even know whether that counts as a BCOD update. So,
who is Paul Volcker?
The guy who was the Federal Reserve chairman for many years in the 90s, yeah.
Well, you know, I attacked the American system.
You did.
Black Cow of Death may have jumped on it. What can I tell you?
I don't know. So,
Alec Greenspan, we're coming for you.
Yeah, who knows who's next? Everybody, thanks a lot for tuning in. I'd like to say I'm going to be with you Friday, but I won't be because of the tooth extraction. But I will.
Titanium.
Yeah. But I will let everybody know how I'm doing and let you know what's happening for Sunday's halftime and postgame shows as we play the Arizona Cardinals. Thanks a lot for tuning in.
Facebook Live with blood gushing out of your mouth. And,
Thanks, everybody, for tuning in. See you again, hopefully, on Sunday. Until then, hasta la vista, Pastor Heads. Good night.
Go Cardinals.